All right, so here we are in Unit 3, Lesson 5. Lesson 5, Bubble 5. And there are some rules about creating names of variables that we have to learn. All right. It says to debug naming variables. This program has multiple errors caused by bad variable labels. The errors prevent the program from being viewed in block mode. So like we're not used to seeing this in text. We want to do block, and it says if I try to go to block, it says you need to correct the error before you can show blocks. Okay. So what are the rules for creating the names of variables? Number 1, labels can't have spaces. So your variable labels cannot have any space. Number 2, they cannot start with a number. Number 3, capitalization and spelling must be exactly the same. Awesome sauce. Okay, so find the rule that each variable label is violating. Correct the arrow by picking new names that follow the rules above. And if your program works, you should be able to draw the image on the right. You should also be able to switch back and forth to block mode. So I know that my program is not working because if I hit run, it tells me there's an error. Nothing happens. I'm not drawing it. All right, cool. So let's see. Again, my rules are, number 1, my labels cannot have spaces, they cannot start with a number, and my capitalization and spelling must be exactly the same. All right, cool. So let's see if we can fix these. So I have variable var, 1 dimension equals 100. So which rule am I violating? Spacing, starting with a number, or capitalization and spelling rules? Guys, I need some help. Those are my rules. I can't have spaces. I can't start with a number. My capitalization and spelling must be exactly the same. So, looking at line 1 of code, it says var, variable, 1 dimension, 100 equals our...
Do you have to remove the space between var and the word?
Nope, the space is okay. Look at my rules, though, and I'm going to kind of try to get all 3 of them up there. I have 3 rules for making the names of variables. Number 1, they cannot have any spaces. Number 2, they cannot start with a number. And number 3, my capitalization and spelling must be exactly the same. So look at line 1. What rule did it violate? Right here, guys, line number 1. I just highlighted it. After the word var, because it's just creating the variable, the label of that variable is 1 dimension gets 100. So, what rule has been violated? Look at the 3 rules, guys.
Well, the first one to start with a number.
Starts with a number. Okay, cool. So let's get rid of that number. Awesome. So if I get rid of the number, and I'm going to call it X dimension, because why not? All right. But if I change it down here in the ellipse, if I change the name here, I have to have capitalization and spelling exactly the same everywhere. So I'm going to change this 1 down here also to an X. I'm going to delete the 1 and add an X. Awesome. Okay. So now I'm going to try to run it. Ugh. All right. So my little warning label came off the 1, but now I have it on the 2. All right. Cool. So now my second line of code has a problem. All right. It says var y location equals 200. Let me reset that. Okay. So look down here where I'm trying to call it up. What is the problem between the var y location up top where I define where I label my variable and where I'm trying to use it underneath? What rule did I violate? Did I have a space? Did I start it with a number? Or is my capitalization and spelling not the same?
Capitalization.
capitalization problem. So up here, the variable that I created is lowercase y. Down here, I'm trying to call up an uppercase y. That's not going to work. You have to make sure that it is the same. So again, all I did was change the one that I'm trying to call up down here at the bottom. Y location, I just changed it so that it matches exactly. All right, cool. So now let's try to run this. Run. It still won't run. Gosh darn it. All right, so now I have an error on line 3. Okay. It says var size of circle gets 150. All right, so what rule have I violated there? Size of circle is 150. What are my rules? Can't have spaces, start with a number, capitalization, spelling must be exactly the same. What rule did I...
still don't get it.
Okay, but look at the rules. The rules are my labels cannot have spaces. My labels cannot start with a number. My labels have to have the same exact capitalization and spelling. So look at line 3. The variable label is size of circle. What rule did I violate?
Spaces.
Spacing. Perfect. So if I pull out the spacing, all I'm going to do is get rid of the spacing. And if I get rid of the spacing here, I have to make sure that it's the same exact thing underneath. So I'm just going to get rid of the spacing down here as well. All I'm doing is getting rid of the spacing. And now, if I hit run, there it is. So now all of my variables have the correct type of labels. My labels do not have any spaces. My labels do not start with numbers. And all of my variables, the labels for them have the same capitalization and spelling. Whenever you create variables, you need to make sure that you are following these 3 fairly simple rules. All right, we have about 1 minute left in class. You guys need to complete bubble 6 today on your own. Let me close that.